Yeah, it's that shitty booty ass nigga cat, man. You know, stomach stay cooking, man. You better bring me that apple juice. You feel me, Shock? You know I need that apple juice. How about what you wanna do? I just want to. How about be like what you wanna do? I just want to. Sliding in the drop, top, bitch, riding with my dogs. Lit, I can't fuck with you, you on. Shit, brush your feet off before you step in my whip. Chop the top like Kennedy, please don't drain my energy. Work hard like this enemy, so then dope with melodies. Bitch, I got the remedy, flexing on my enemies. You are not a friend of me. 0.8 cost like 10 of boots. Smoking KK, yeah. Okay, feeling hella straight, yeah. I like Mayday, yeah. Booty pics in my SMS, make my dick flex. Know how to pass a bitch, but not a piss test. How about be like?
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video, to a brand new stream. It is indeed your Kenyan boy BHE Frankenstein, back again with another episode on the channel. So today we'll be having the gaming and streaming talk show over on Twitch, and the title of today's stream is Esports in the Olympic Games. There was some time I read about this article that the Olympics want to introduce esports as a category so that guys can be able to participate, but I don't have any clear information on this. But that's gonna be the topic for today. That's what we're gonna dwell on. Always do remember that the stream is proudly sponsored by Rogue Energy Drink, Fatal Grips, E-Athlete Labs, Player One Coffee, and Instant Gaming. And always do remember, when checking out from Rogue Energy Drink, Fatal Grips, E-Athlete Labs, and Player One Coffee, always do remember to use my offer code Frankenstein254 when checking out, and you'll be given a discount. And with that being said, let us get straight into today's video. Just a sec. Yeah, so that's gonna be the title for today's video. I just decided, I was looking for titles, and then I just decided, I remember there was the time I read the article about Olympics wanting to start Olympics wanting to add esports as a venture or as a subcategory where people could actually participate in, and I thought, hey, that might be the topic of today's video because I just remembered it. So it's actually pretty interesting, come to think of it. Like, the Olympics is mostly based on physical sport like field and track events, but how about it's not only physical event. It's not. It is physical events, but it's mostly outdoor and indoor events. But now, what about having indoor events where people actually participate on various devices on consoles? Like, picture this playing using devices like the Xbox Kinect and the Nintendo Wii to play sports like lawn tennis and badminton. And then you can also use a good example of table tennis as well, can be played as well on those platforms, and it's actually a good idea for the Olympics to actually try and add esports as a category, as it would be so nice and it would be so cool for guys to actually go ahead and participate in these disciplines. And we're just gonna look at some articles, and there's an article here that I'm going to be reading, and so okay, so we're going to have a look at this article together, and we're going to read this article together. So I'm just going to share my screen, and then you guys can also see exactly what I'm going to be reading on my screen. And then for those who would like to join the show or join the conversation, the link to the Discord is down in my Twitch panel section. It's called Gaming Central. You can join in. You'll find me in the voice channel, and we can have a lengthy discussion on this topic, as it's a very interesting topic. And let's go ahead and read the article, this first article, as we'll be reading several other articles as we move along in the stream. So it says here, esports are coming to the Tokyo 2021 Olympics, and it says last week the International Olympics Committee IOC made a landmark announcement with the Olympic Virtual Series. This is a 6-week series where the world's best compete in esports events for their countries. The inaugural series will start this year in Tokyo, but okay, so it says the inaugural series will start later this year in Tokyo. And then the question here is being put across, but do esports belong in the Olympics? And then it says at the bottom here, Olympics are the most prestigious and the oldest sporting event in the world. The origins of the Olympics can be traced back to Greece in 776 BC, which is 2,779 years of competition. The Olympics has had some major alternations during its long history. We have women first competed in 1900. The first Winter Olympics were held in 1924. Dude, these Olympics are very old. Like, the first Winter Olympics were held in 1924. Some of our countries in 1924 hadn't even gotten independence. Yo, and it says the first Paralympics began in 1960. So for those who don't know what Paralympics is, Paralympics are the Olympic sport for those people who are disabled and handicapped. That is where they get to participate and represent their countries. And then we have, it says Paralympics began in the 1960. Captain Blizzard, welcome to the stream. Thank you for tuning in. You're saying instead of featuring esports in the Olympics, how about forming an esport Olympics? That's actually a good idea, Captain Blizzard. But that's for the IOC. I don't. It was called IOC. Let me have a look at it. IOC, International Olympics Committee. That's now for them to decide. Us, we're just gonna be observers, and we're gonna be people who are going to be participating, and we don't know further information on this. And over here it says that 1924, the first Paralympics began in the 1960s, but Tokyo 2021 could have the most radical change yet. The last Olympics were held in 2016, and I think they were in London. It was the London 2016 Olympics, and that was the last one, and it happens after every 4 years. But last year it didn't happen due to COVID complications, as last year is when COVID was discovered and all these things, and people trying to see if they can make vaccines and all that kind of stuff. So last year the Olympics wasn't possible, but at least this year vaccines have been discovered, and people have been given vaccines, and I think there's a step and some more progress towards fighting and curbing COVID. So the Olympics are still going to be held, but that's this year, and it's in Tokyo, Japan. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. And then it says here, fear. The fear is to collaborate with the International Olympics Committee at Olympics by participating in the inaugural Olympic Virtual Series OVS, the first ever Olympic licensed event for physical and non-physical virtual sports. And then they said the full story is at fear.com/news. So we're just going to click on that and remain on this page. So at the bottom it says, what is the Olympic Virtual Series? And it actually tells us the Olympic Virtual Series introduces 5 new esports events. So from what I can see already here in the names, we already have Gran Turismo, so we already have eSim, so we already have simulation racing. So those guys who normally have your racing wheels in the house and you normally practice, you've all been covered by the Olympics. And then, oh, Nyangao, welcome to the show. So for those who normally do sim racing, you've already been added to this category. Those who have you have your Thrustmaster or you have your Logitech, you've been covered. We can see here the first event they said is Gran Turismo Racing, and then we have e-basketball. So all those who play NBA, 2K Sports got you covered in that category. And then Zwift, that is virtual cycling. So all those who normally enjoy playing Le Tour de France, you've also been covered. And it says also a growing simulation and sailing simulator. I've not played any sailing simulator, like any ship games, maybe battleships, but not another game other than battleships. Battleships kind of like World of War. Battleships is kind of like World of Tanks, but now it basically deals with ships, and I think that's the only ship game I've played, or ship simulation game I've played. I've not played any other. And it says it is a 6-week event where the world's best players representing their countries on the Olympic stage. So it's 6 weeks, so that is 1 month and 2 weeks, because a month has 4 weeks, so that's 1 month and 2 weeks. Nyangao, you're saying how powerful this is. Indeed powerful, very powerful. And it says okay, so let me read the statement again. It is a 6-week event where the world's best players represent their countries on the Olympic stage. While these aren't the traditional games that made esports into the billion-dollar industry today, it is a monumental step for video games. It shows that esports are finally getting the respect they deserve from mainstream. It seems likely that the inaugural series will be treated as a tester, and more games will be introduced in the future. So okay, so that's the first part of this article. So they gave us a link for FEAR, where it says here, FEAR is to collaborate with International Olympic Committee at Olympics by whatever. Sorry, it says here, FEAR is to collaborate with the International Olympic Committee at Olympics by participating in the inaugural Olympic Virtual Series. And they gave us this link here for the full story. So for the full story, it says FEAR collaborates with the International Olympics Committee in the launch of inaugural Olympic Virtual Series. Okay, so we can see here that we have the Olympic Virtual Series, and it's an official licensed event. So the Olympics have officially licensed this event, and they've added esports to the Olympics. As we can see there, it has already been added. Nyanga, you're saying they should have a better software for racing with. That is true. They should have a better software for racing with. For racing, the only one I saw was Formula One Championship, the Formula One Simulation Racing Championship. I was shown that by my elder brother because he's a huge Formula One fanatic, so he showed me that, and it was actually looking pretty sick and pretty interesting. We have like the way you normally would go to a video game arcade and then you find the way you normally go to a video game arcade and then you find the stalls where you go slot in your coin and then play. That's how the eSIM for Formula One was, the Formula One Esports. So every slot there's a chair and you have your steering, and then there were those coaches, the guys who have been training these e-athletes or electronic sports athletes. They go talk to them and tell them something before the race actually begins, and that is something. I think they should have a better software for racing with, and it's also fake. Yeah, the eSIM is not like that much popular. You're saying R Factor 2 and Assetto are the best. In fact, the SIM rigs in the village market use Assetto. It's been long since I lastly went to village market. I think the last time I went to village market I was still a kid, and I didn't even know if they had a video game arcade or not. The most video game arcade that I interacted with was the one at the South Center, and the one that is currently at Two Rivers Mall. It's called Magic Planet. If you can take a visit at Magic Planet, you'll have a very beautiful time, and you can try the games over there. You can get your tickets, stick them to the counter, and redeem them for a very good price. Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys streaming Assetto Corsa on Twitch, Nyanga, but I saw the gameplay was really good. One of the sim racing games I played was on Android, and it was actually very decent. Actually, it was a very decent game. It was called Dr. Driving. So if you go ahead to your Google Play Store and install Dr. Driving, even if it's an Android game, the game stood up to the standards of driving. The game stood up to the standards of driving properly. So here it says, okay, the Federation Internationale de Automobile FIA is to collaborate with International Olympic Committee IOC by participating in the inaugural Olympic Virtual Series OVS, the first ever Olympic licensed event for physical and non-physical sports. And it says here, as part of its build-up to the Olympic Games, the IOC, the supreme authority of the Olympic Games and the leader of the Olympic movement, has introduced the landmark Olympic Virtual Series to inspire and mobilize virtual sport, esports, and gaming enthusiasts all around the world, while encouraging the development of physical and non-physical forms of sport. So from that point so far, we can already see they want to promote both physical and non-physical sport. So with esports, there's the physical sport, and we also have like non-physical sport, the ones where you don't have to move your body parts. Like I mentioned, you can have like the way people used to play tennis on the Nintendo Wii and the Xbox Kinect, the Wii Adventures. Those were like examples of physical, where you can actually move your body and you're actually doing something. And for the Nintendo Wii, it used to have two controllers, so you could have one guy standing on the other side, and we could have another guy. I don't I don't know how to explain, but if you know the Nintendo Wii, you know how the tennis used to work on the Nintendo Wii, and also how it used to work on the Xbox Kinect, and Kinect is still available on the Xbox One, so there's more advancements to that. And let's continue reading. It says the IOC's vision is to build a better world through sport in creating a stage to connect the physical sporting world with the virtual and simulation sports gaming community, the OVS. Okay. The OVS will enable participants to engage actively with the Olympic movement through competitive gaming initiatives, while championing physical activity and the importance of sport amongst young generations. This is actually something that I would really like and I would really enjoy, and I'm really so excited for this. It's something we've been waiting for, and now it's actually finally happening. As the we've read from Fear, they're saying esports is finally getting the recognition it does. Well, esports has been there for quite a very long time, and we've seen some of the very big names in esports, and we know esports has been there for a very long time, and we've been able to see some of the very big names in esports make a killing from esports. And it says, Nyanga is saying, lol, these things are very much under spec to be for the masses. You build faster and more at home, like 2k US $2,000, and you're saying more range and faster movement than VM. And Captain Blizzard, you're saying, so let me figure out where to get 2,000 US dollars. And then Nyangao, you're saying, I'm in that boat, join me as well. Getting $2,000 is definitely not easy. Even I, when I was building my PC for esports, it was actually very difficult, as there were no parts available. Especially graphics cards were the most difficult thing to find, and graphics cards right now, they're still very difficult. But there's a blog that had said there is hope for graphics cards, as prices are doomed to return back to normal very soon. So here it says, whilst the fear was awarded full recognition status by the International Olympic Committee in 2013, in accordance with the sporting and governance standards of Olympic Charter. This new partnership makes the latest stage in the FIA's integration into the Olympic movement. The World Motorsport Governing Body wholeheartedly embraces the Olympic spirit and shares the Olympic values of respect and excellence and friendship, believing that the sport should be accessible and fair and enjoyable for all. The FIA has been appointed to participate in the OVS Olympics virtual series alongside 4 other leading international sports federations from baseball, cycling, rowing, and sailing, and has collaborated closely with gaming developer Polyphony Digital Incorporated to launch the motorsport. So I think okay, Captain Blizzard, you're asking what are your PC specs, by the way. Everything is down in the Twitch panel section below, in the section called hardware. I've put everything that my PC has, from the RAM to the graphics card to the monitor. The only thing I've not included is the other peripherals, the keyboard, the mouse, and the microphone, which I'm gonna include as well into that description. But what is currently on the hardware section is just the specs that are inside the PC plus the monitor itself. So it says here, I think Polyphony Digital are the ones who invented this game that has been yes, just a second, chat. So chat, I am back. So I was just about to look at this company, and this is called a Polyphonic Incorporated, and I think this is the company that developed Gran Turismo Motorsport. So I'm not really sure. I just want to have a look at it and see what it deals with. So here it says Polyphony Digital Video Game Company. Polyphony is a digital internal Japanese first-party video game developer studio of Sony Interactive Entertainment, operated under SIE Worldwide Studios, which in turn is owned by multi-international conglomerate Sony, and we can see the game that they've developed is Gran Turismo. So I believe this is the company that actually develops the game Gran Turismo, so they've been added to this list to launch the motorsport event of the Olympics virtual series. This is an online digital competition will be open to users of Gran Turismo Sport, which was developed in 2018 for the FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships. The World Finals will be broadcasted on 23rd June in the World Finals will be broadcast on June 23rd in celebration of Olympic Day, the date on which Pierre de Coubertin, founder of the International Olympics Committee back in 1894, and will feature 3 races with points awarded to each. The competitor who acquires the highest cumulative points total across all 3 races will be crowned the winner. The Olympics virtual series objective is to prioritize inclusively and participation, and it says entry is open to all users of the sport mode, and then Gran Turismo Sport who have registered a PSN ID eligible. It says for members who so it says here in the line with the Olympics virtual series objectives to prioritize in inclusivity and participation, entry is open to all users of the sport mode of Gran Turismo Sport who have registered a PSN ID in eligible countries. The World Finals will be restricted to competitors aged 18 or over at the time of the event. So it's actually so right now here is where the catch comes in. This one for Gran Turismo, they've mentioned that it will be available for guys who have the PlayStation Plus, as you need PlayStation Plus in order to play online, and they've said it's going to be an online thing, and it will also said you will only be able to participate if your country is eligible. Let me highlight it here. It says let's highlight it here. So it says let me start from entry. So it says where I have highlighted here. So it says entry is open to all users of Gran Turismo Sport who have a registered PlayStation Network ID in eligible countries, and they've said the World Finals will be restricted to competitors aged 18 or over at the time of the event. So we can clearly see here like there's a huge initiative by the Olympics to include esports, and we've seen just a few titles that have been added. We have the E-League for basketball, so we're gonna hopefully be seeing NBA 2K21, as that is the latest installment of NBA by the game developer studios 2K, and we've also seen they've added Gran Turismo amongst others, and this is actually a good initiative by the Olympics. I want to look for other articles as well. Sina sijachukua sina sindio, simi nakwambia kitu ya ukweli, mimi sijaichukua. Okay, so let's go on. Let me look for more articles in the series. So and this is another one by the what this is another blog, another post by the this post is by the Washington Post. The Washington Post, I believe, is a newspaper by the U.S. And let's see what they have to say about it. So over here, the Washington Post, and it says democracy dies in darkness, and it says International Olympics Committee announces inaugural slate of Olympics licensed esport events. So we can see here that this is from the Washington Post, the American newspaper. So it says here, we do not have video games in the Olympics quite yet, but we're getting closer. The International Olympic Committee announced on Thursday that it was sorry guys, my internet just disconnected, so we're gonna have the stream just automatically restarted itself. Sorry, I'm very sorry for that, for those who had tuned into the show. The internet just disconnected a bit, but we are back, and we were reading we were reading the article from the American newspaper, the Washington Post, and let's continue reading. So it said here, we do not have video games in the Olympics quite yet, but we're getting closer. The International Olympic Committee announced on Thursday that it was organizing a slate of 5 esports events to be staged ahead of the Summer Games this year in Tokyo. The Olympic Virtual Series will feature competitions in auto racing, baseball, cycling, rowing, and sailing. And it says here, auto racing is not an Olympic sport, but then again, neither are any esports. However, a roadmap produced by an IOC panel in February of recommendations for the next several years included sections of growing digital engagement and on encouraging the development of virtual sports. It appears the IOC's intent is just intent on doing that, but it will start with something of a toe dip into the virtual waters. And it says, yeah, the Olympic Virtual Series is a new unique Olympic digital experience that aims to grow direct engagement with new audiences in the field of virtual sports. IOC President Thomas Bach said in a statement, it encourages sports participation and promotes Olympic values with a specific focus on the youth. It says, further says, in according to the International Olympic Committee, each Olympic Virtual Series event is being run via coordination between a given sports IOC recognized international federation and a corresponding gaming publisher. In this case of auto racing, contestants will play a game in the title of Gran Turismo series as agreed upon by manufacturers and Sony subsidiary Polyphony Digital in the International Automobile Federation. So what we can clearly see from all the articles we've read so far, Gran Turismo has the game that has been chosen by the International Olympics Committee that will be used for simulation racing. So I'm not too sure whether they want to include other games, but as you've read from all the 3 articles so far, Gran Turismo is the only game that has been put in the category for simulation racing. And then we have the World Baseball Softball Confederation and Konami Digital Entertainment are teaming up to offer electronic baseball Powerful Pro Baseball 2020, and the International Cycling Union is working with ZWIFT Incorporated to use its popular program ZWIFT. And it said World Sailing has developed a partnership with Virtual Regatta SAS for the latter's virtual regatta simulation for the World Rowing Federation's entry. The International Olympics Committee initial announcement listed. So out of all of these, we've only seen 3 major. We've only seen like we've only seen a few major companies that we know. We've seen Konami, who are well known for producing the likes of PES, which is always the biggest competitor to FIFA. And then we've also seen Polyphony Digital by Sony, the company that develops Gran Turismo Autosport. That is for Konami, they're going to focus on the electronic baseball part of it. For the racing simulation, we've seen Gran Turismo has been the chosen sport. And for cycling and sailing, we've seen this company called Zwift Incorporated has been the one that has been selected to give us that section, and those are the ones we've seen so far. And then let's look at this other article. It says at topendsports.com, esports demonstration at the Olympics. Let's click on it and see what it says. So let's see. It says computer gaming, esports or electronic sports are a term used for competitive arm of playing games on your computer. Although not considered a true sport by many people, there haven't been moves to include it as part of the Olympic Games program. In 2016 and 2018, there were demonstrations of the sport in quotes held around the time of the Olympics, and again it will be demonstrated at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. The inclusion at major events has become a reality, with esports as an official medal event at the 2022 Asian Games in Hangzhou, China, not China, sorry, China. And it says the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. So at an international esport competition in brackets called the E-Games took place during the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio, and it was an international gaming tournament where participants representing their country. Okay, so it says these inaugural E-Games took from the top of a 2-day pop-up event during the Olympic Games. It was a medal-only competition with no prize money awarded, just medals. Male and female E-Gamers 18 years old played in teams and individual games. So we can see here there was already something of the sort that happened in the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. So there was something of that sort had already been put in place, and it happened. And as we heard, those guys were not given prize money, but they were given medals. Bro, getting an Olympic medal is just something worth it. Even if you don't get prize money, just getting an Olympic medal to show that you worked hard to represent your country is actually much, much more than money, because even if you still have money, the money will still be used and it will get depleted, but the medal that you still have, or the certificate that you still have, is evidence to show that you actually participated and you actually put in your effort and you got your reward for it. And we can see now, we've seen like the Olympics take on esports, and we've seen they want to include esports, or they have already included esports, and that is a good initiative by the Olympics. I'm really excited that they actually added esports, and they've said they're starting with few titles, and they don't want to. I think in the near future we'll have more categories of sports being added into the Olympics. I mean, more categories of esports being added into the Olympics, and it's actually gonna be fun and enjoyable. As I can't wait to see the games that actually made esports what it is today in the Olympics. You can actually look at the likes of maybe Counter-Strike, the games that actually where esports actually started from. Looks of Counter-Strike, the looks of Street Fighter, the looks of Taken 7, Fortnite, Soul Calibur. We have individual companies as well running esports tournaments. Like, this would be good if these individual companies could partner with the Olympic. The streamer just lagged out on the phone a bit, so let me just refresh it. So what I'm saying, it would be good enough if these companies are actually partnered with the IOC, the International Olympics Committee, to give us esports tournaments where we can actually go ahead and represent our countries, where we can actually go ahead and register and represent our countries. And this is actually pretty interesting, as it's gonna promote esports, and it's also gonna make esports very big, as the Olympics is already worldwide and it's very big. And if we were to compare, esports is just like a grain of salt to the Olympics, because the Olympics is, I don't know what word I can use to describe the Olympics, but the Olympics is very huge. And if esports gets added to the Olympics, then esports is going to be much more than a grain of salt. It's going to be a lot more in the Olympics if it gets added, and it's going to be a really big step and a really big initiative, as we've seen as well in previous years. These companies have actually had an initiative to boost esports in Africa. I think it was in 2018 or in 2019, we had the Taken World Tour Challenger event that was held at Cape Town in South Africa, that featured various countries, including Kenya, Thailand. A lot of countries traveled just to go and participate at that Taken World Tour Challenger event that was held in Cape Town, South Africa, and that was by Bandai Namco. I really thank them for hosting that event in South Africa, and it was a very successful event. And one of our players from Kenya, that is Dark Tempest, managed to secure third place in that tournament, and it was actually very interesting to watch. And then we also had the Taken World Tour Challenger event as well. Again, another one that was supposed to be held in Cote d'Ivoire last year. That was in 2020, but the event was cancelled due to COVID complications. So we can see these big companies have an initiative of boosting esports in not just in Africa as well, but in other. They want to at least make sure they're marketing esports in at least every single continent. And it's actually a good idea, but what I would advise for these huge companies is for them to talk to the International Olympics Committee and just put a few good titles that can be used in the Olympics virtual series in future, and they can get licenses so that those tournaments can actually be held and those tournaments can actually take place. Because for us, as we are only supporters of this movement and we are minor people, we do not have the power and the capacity that these game developers have to speak to the IOC so that they can get their games inaugurated and licensed into the Olympic virtual series. But they have the capacity and they have the ability and they have the energy, and they also have the funding and support to go and talk to those IOC, International Olympics Committee officials, and get something working out. And I'm really excited for what the future holds in for esports, as esports gets inaugurated and licensed into the Olympic Games. And the first Olympic virtual series, as we've read from all the four articles, is going to happen in this year's Olympics that was supposed to happen last year. This is the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, and I'm really excited. I'll definitely watch these Olympic Games for the section of esports, but I'll generally watch the Olympic Games as well, because I also love Olympics. I used to do a bit of Olympics back when I was in school, and Olympics is just always fun to watch. And now with the esports being added to Olympics, it's gonna be much more interesting and much more entertaining to watch. And I believe that's gonna be everything regarding this topic. Remember, if you wanna add more to the show, or if you wanna tell me anything in regards to the show or any further future topics that I could talk about, you can just join my Discord server. The link is in my Twitch panel section below. It's called Gaming Central, and you can just tell me if there are any future topics you'd want me to talk about on the show. And I believe that's gonna sum up and that's gonna cover everything that was pertaining to this topic. esports being added to Olympics, and the first Olympic virtual series to be held in this year's Olympic Games that's gonna be held in Tokyo, Japan, and that's gonna be everything.